Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who are watching this video. In today's video, I will be talking about the next in the Scrum Processes series, that is the review. So firstly, let me walk you through the agenda like always. We will be covering what a sprint review is, what are the different roles each and every Scrum team member plays in this meeting, and what are the common mistakes I have noticed people make in these meetings. So firstly, by definition, the sprint review is an event that takes place at the end of the sprint. This meeting is typically used to showcase the work the team has done during the sprint. Seems very clear, but I would like to highlight a few things here. This meeting is firstly used to elicit feedback from the stakeholders. And this is one of the most important things, I think, because at this point, all of our communication happens via the product owner, which is great because it's a one point of contact. But at some point, it is also important for the people who are working on the product to also get feedback from the people who are requesting for it. And this is the forum to do so. The next one is it fosters a sense of collaboration within the team. And this kind of is a result of the first one, right? When you directly talk and interact with the people who are requesting for these products, you kind of have a direct conversation with them. It helps you understand their requests better, and they in return also understand you and the problems you are facing in return. So there's a sense of collaboration that is built via this meeting. The other point is also that it evokes a sense of pride within the team, and this I think is the most important for me, because if we will use this video as my example, right? I spent time researching and building and shooting this video, but when I get to present my own video to other people, I it feels good, right? I feel a pride. I feel that, okay, this is my work and you are seeing what I did. And when you give me direct feedback, it kind of helps me feel more confident to go into my next task. This also is a forum for direct Q&A. There are sometimes, ideally, yes, we would want all communication. As I mentioned in the previous videos, our product owner is the one who tries to get all the information, answers all the questions, etc. But when you have now that your product is ready and you are having a demo, there are certain questions that it's best answered by you. So when your stakeholder asks you, hey, what exactly is this video about? Or why have you chosen this rather than this? Instead of having my product owner reply, I can directly answer those questions to the best of my ability. And that kind of helps the stakeholder also understand my mindset, where I come from, and the logic I used to do this video, which is great. The next one is also this meeting can be used to understand the business impact, because when you're sitting with your stakeholders and when you have all the parties involved sitting in the same room and talking, right? You have your product owner, the dev team, the scrum master, and the stakeholders. As part of the direct Q&A, you can also ask questions as to how the product that you have worked on is impacting the business. Typically in a sprint review meeting, you would also talk about items in your product backlog. Maybe something needs to be prioritized more, or something can be deprioritized. This would be a meeting where you actually understand why all of that is done. So it's really nice to have these meetings because you get a holistic understanding of where your product stands in the bigger picture. Now, we will move on to the next part of this video, that is the team roles. Firstly, let's talk about the product owner. What does he or she do? Firstly, the product owner is the one who facilitates the meeting, and he starts off by explaining what items in the product backlog have been done and what has not been done in that sprint. So he just gives an introduction and he walks through the basics. The product also he also discusses the product backlog as it stands, and in this meeting you can also, there's a potential discussion of the roadmap based on what is presented, what are the changes, etc. So all the product related discussions will be carried on by the product owner in short. What does the dev team do here? So firstly, of course, the dev team will discuss what went well during the sprint in terms of the ticket that they are working on, what problems did they run into while working on this ticket, and how did they solve this problem. This is very important because a lot of times, and I don't know how many of you have faced this, but I've heard this a lot, where we have a request saying, but this is a small change, right? How long does it take to just make this small tweak? Well, these requests come because the stakeholders don't really understand coding and they don't understand everything that the developer has to go through. So this would be a good place for you to kind of just show them that, hey, it's not as easy as changing a piece of code. I need to make sure that it passes all the acceptance criteria. When I change this piece of code, I need to know where else that code affects, what are after effects. So it's not as simple as just enter, change, and publish. This would be a good chance for you to explain that to your stakeholders. And eventually, at some point, when you have these meetings on a recurring basis, the stakeholders tend to start understanding a little more about the technical aspects also. They might not know in depth, but they do start understanding what problems and what are the common things that you face. So they also start planning their requirements better. And this also kind of helps your product owner when he needs to push back something, because the stakeholder already has a basic knowledge of the technical things. And of course, the most important part for the dev team in this meeting is to demonstrate and to present their work. It is not the product owner who presents in this meeting, it is the developers who present their own work. And lastly, what does the Scrum Master do? The Scrum Master typically supports the team in this entire process based on who needs what support. So if the product owner needs some help, Scrum Master is your go-to person. Same with the dev team if they want to prepare a presentation, for example. But of course, this needs to be done within the sprint, right? So you, as a Scrum Master, you can help with some of these things. And most importantly, the Scrum Master also facilitates the question and answer round, because you need somebody very neutral to know when a conversation has exceeded his time box. When, if it's a product owner, he might get into the product aspects of things, or the developer might get into the technical. So you need a neutral person to kind of balance both product and technical related discussions. So that's where a Scrum Master comes in. And with this, we reach the end of this section and we move into the last bit, that is, what is the common mistakes that people do in this meeting? And the first and most common that I have noticed is this meeting does not happen at all. And I understand why a lot of people say, well, it's just a review and this is not the most exciting thing to do. This involves a lot of preparation and, there's a lot of effort involved that you would rather use that time to do something else. You'd rather use it to complete a ticket or something. But that should definitely not happen. Now, I do not believe that this meeting needs to happen at the end of every single sprint, because sometimes it takes a team 2 sprints or 3 sprints to complete a sprint goal and have a product that you can actually show. But so it's okay, have this meeting instead of once every sprint, have it once a month. That is not a problem, but make sure this meeting happens. You can decide the frequency based on when you have a product to show, and then do it. But don't just say, yeah, okay, we'll just send out an email and get this done. That is not very, very productive, because you miss out on a lot of positive things that come out from this meeting. The other thing is, now, yeah, this meeting, okay, we got it to happen, but what's the point if the stakeholders don't attend as well? And that again is as good as not having the meeting, right? Because this meeting, as I mentioned, is by the dev team for the stakeholders. So it is very important that you find time that works with your stakeholders and at least have their representatives in this meeting. If you can't have each and every stakeholder, not a problem, but make sure you at least have the key 2 or 3 people who will understand what you're presenting, or at least the reporters of the most number of issues that you have completed in the sprint, etc. But if they are not able to attend, I would strongly suggest reschedule it. Do not cancel it, but just reschedule this meeting. Now let's say, okay, the meeting happened and the stakeholders attended. The other thing that happens is this becomes like a status report update meeting, right? Okay, this is what we did, here is what we are at, etc., etc. Well, no, there is no meeting in the whole Scrum and Agile framework that is a status report meeting, because that would then mean you are reporting to someone higher. And we believe with this process, most people or everybody is on an equal platform. Everybody is equal. So do not look at this meeting as a status update meeting. It is it's like a show and tell. You know, you are presenting what you have done to people who basically just asked for it. That's it. And this would be something, sorry, the Scrum Master needs to ensure does not happen. Now, the purpose of this meeting is not understood a lot of times. You know, one of the reasons it becomes into a status meeting is because maybe your stakeholders don't really know what to expect out of this meeting, or your dev team doesn't really know why you are having this meeting. So they kind of get into this tangent of giving a status. Okay, so I worked on 4 tickets this time and this is what I completed. And you need to make it very clear in your meeting's agenda itself why this meeting is happening. And the best way to say is, we as a Scrum team, based on the sprints of XYZ, would like to present to you what we have done and would like to facilitate and answer any question and answer that come. Now, the information shared in this meeting, the information that is shared is not really understood by the stakeholders. And this could be because it is very, very technical. So just make sure you know who your stakeholders are and you prepare something that they understand. And the other thing is, we do not discuss things that were not done. Now, this has been a topic of debate. I notice a lot. Some people say, no, if it's not done, why even talk about it in the sprint review? Whereas some teams say, no, it's important to talk. Well, I think this is a call that you as a team need to make, because typically the way we work in Scrum is, ideally, on an ideal scenario, you shouldn't have tickets that are not done, right? But it is good to at least mention it and say, as part of our sprint goal, we have completed A, B, C, D tasks, and E and F are almost done, and they will be completed as in the next round of our sprint, in the next sprint, etc. Just do not go into in-depth detail about this, but it's always good to just mention it, because one of the key things that we want to establish is transparency, and transparency includes talking about things that are not done as well. And lastly, going into this meeting unprepared. Now, a lot of dev teams, I know, at least in my experience, the developers don't really enjoy this meeting. So they don't really prepare for it. And that would be the worst thing to do, because you enter a meeting and then you start stammering, you start stuttering, you are not really sure what you do. You don't, because you have not thought it through, you kind of go into a tangent that's not really relevant, etc. So it is always good to prepare. You don't need to prepare an elaborate 2-hour presentation, or sometimes you don't even need a presentation. If your product is something that you can just give a live demo of, just pre-plan. Okay, if I'm going to give a demo, okay, what are the filters I will use, what will I click, where will I go, how do I explain it? Just narrate a story in your mind beforehand. With that, I would like to conclude, and thank you guys for watching. I hope you really like the content that I'm sharing so far, and I would love to hear your comments and feedbacks. So please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and just add some comments below so I know if you like it, if you don't like it. But thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Bye.